Captain Day stared at the screen in front of him. The coffee in his hand had gone cold an hour ago, but he didn't notice. Something was wrong with the sensor readings. A faint signal blinked on the edge of the display, weak and broken. "Hana, are you seeing this?" he called out to the engineering station. Chief Engineer Hana looked up from her work and squinted at her own screen. "Yeah, I'm getting it too. It's a distress beacon, I think. Really old frequency, not one of ours." The UNS Horizon's Edge was 3 days into a routine patrol. Nothing ever happened on these runs. They checked on mining stations, logged asteroid movements, and counted the days until they could go home. This was different. "Can you clean up the signal?" Dee asked. Hana's fingers moved quickly across her controls. "Working on it." "Give me a minute." She frowned as numbers scrolled across her screen. "Captain, this is weird. The signal is coming from inside the broken ring." Day felt his stomach tighten. The broken ring was an asteroid field so dense that even experienced pilots avoided it. Ships that went in rarely came out. "You're sure?" "Positive. Whatever is sending this signal is right in the middle of it." At the medical station, Officer Tay looked up. "Could be a trap. Pirates use fake distress calls sometimes." "In the broken ring?" Navigator Yuna shook her head. "Nobody is crazy enough to hide in there. It would be like hiding in a burning building." Day stood up and walked to the main viewport. Outside, he could see the edge of the asteroid field. Rocks the size of buildings tumbled through space, colliding and breaking apart. It looked like a storm made of stone. "Hana, how long has that signal been transmitting?" "At least 3 weeks, maybe more. It's really degraded." 3 weeks. If someone was alive in there, they wouldn't be for much longer. Day knew what he should do. He should report the signal to command and let them send a proper rescue team. That was the protocol. That was the safe choice. But a rescue team would take days to arrive, maybe a week. "Yuna, can you plot us a course through the field?" The navigator's eyes went wide. "Sir, you want to go in there? Can you do it or not?" Yuna turned back to her controls. Her hands shook slightly as she worked. "Maybe. The outer edge isn't too bad, but the inner sections—" "Captain, I can't promise we'll make it. I'm not asking for promises. Just do your best." Tay crossed his arms. "This is against every regulation in the book." "I know," Day said quietly. "But someone is dying in there. We're their only chance." The crew was silent for a moment. Then Hana grinned. "Well, when you put it that way, let's go save some lives." The horizon's edge turned toward the asteroid field. Yuna's course appeared on the main screen, a thin blue line winding through the chaos. It looked impossible. "Taking us in," Yuna said. "Everyone hold on." The ship moved forward slowly. The first asteroids appeared on the screen, small ones at first. Yuna guided the ship around them easily. Then, the rocks got bigger and closer together. "Contact right side," Hana called out. "Just a scrape, shields holding." The ship shuddered as another asteroid glanced off the hull. Dai gripped his chair. On the screen, the rocks seemed to fill every space. Yuna's hands moved constantly, adjusting their path by tiny amounts. "Signal is getting stronger," Hana reported. "We're close." "There," Tay pointed at the screen. Through a gap in the asteroids, they could see a ship. It was unlike anything Day had ever seen. The hull was smooth and curved, almost organic-looking. But it was broken. Large sections were torn open, exposing the interior to space. "I'm reading life signs," Tay said, his voice excited. 3 of them. Faint, but alive. "Yuna, get us alongside. Hana, prepare the airlock." It took another 10 minutes of careful flying, but Yuna managed to position the horizon's edge next to the damaged ship. Day suited up along with Hana and Tay. Yuna would stay behind to keep the ship steady. The airlock opened, and they crossed to the alien vessel. The damage was worse up close. Day could see where something had ripped through the hull, tearing metal like paper. Inside the alien ship, emergency lights flickered weakly. The air was thin and cold. Day's suit sensors showed dangerous levels of carbon dioxide. This way, Hana said, following her scanner. Life signs are forward. They found the aliens in what looked like a command room. 3 beings lay on the floor, barely moving. They were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They wore uniforms of some kind, torn and stained. One of them looked up as the humans approached. Its eyes went wide with fear or surprise. Tay knelt down next to the nearest alien. "It's okay," he said softly, knowing they probably couldn't understand. "We're here to help." The alien tried to speak. A weak sound came from its mouth, words in a language Day had never heard. "We need to get them to our ship," Tay said. "They're in bad shape. Dehydration, exposure, probably internal injuries." Day reached down and carefully lifted one of the aliens. It was surprisingly light, maybe 70 kilograms. The alien made a sound of protest but was too weak to resist. As they carried the aliens back to the horizon's edge, Day noticed something strange. The aliens kept staring at them. Not with gratitude or relief, but with something that looked like shock. One of them tried to reach up and touch Day's helmet, its expression confused. Back on the horizon's edge, Tay got the aliens into the medical bay. Hana started working on adjusting the atmospheric controls to match what their scanners had read from the alien ship. Less oxygen, lower pressure, warmer temperature. "They're stable," Tay announced after a few minutes. "Barely, but stable. They need rest and proper care." The alien that had been most alert, the one who had tried to speak earlier, looked around the medical bay. Its eyes fixed on a readout showing the ship's current environment. Its expression changed to something Day couldn't quite read. Confusion? Disbelief? The alien spoke again, its voice stronger now. It pointed at the readout, then at the humans, then made a gesture that seemed to indicate impossibility. "I wish we could understand you," Day said. Hana pulled out a translation pad, something the colony ships carried for new settlement surveys. "Let me try this. It might take a while to build a vocabulary, but it's a start." The alien watched as Hana set up the device. When it began displaying simple images and words, the alien's eyes brightened. It touched the screen carefully, selecting images. Water. Food. Thank you. Then it selected another series of images. Danger. Death. How? Question. The alien pointed at the humans, then at the space where the asteroid field was. Yuna laughed. "I think it wants to know how we survived the broken ring." The alien's expression suggested that was exactly what it wanted to know. It looked at each human in turn, its large eyes filled with something between wonder and fear. Day smiled. "We'll have plenty of time for explanations. Right now, you need to rest." But the alien didn't rest. It kept watching them, kept studying them, as if trying to solve a puzzle that didn't make sense. Outside the viewport, the broken ring continued its endless dance. And somewhere in the darkness beyond, Day knew more questions were waiting. Questions about who these aliens were, where they came from, and why they looked at humans like they were seeing ghosts. The alien who had been most alert introduced himself as Kale, once Hana's translation device had built up enough vocabulary. The other two were Niram, the pilot, and Voss, a scholar. They were Velran from a world called SciFiPrime, and they were part of something called the Galactic Community. "There are others?" Day asked, leaning forward. "Other species out there?" Kale made a gesture that the translator interpreted as agreement. "Hundreds, thousands. We thought we had cataloged everything." He paused, looking at the humans with that same strange expression. "What are you?" "We're humans," Day said. "From a planet called Earth." Voss, the scholar, immediately grabbed a device from his belt. His fingers moved across it frantically. "Earth. Earth. Scanning database." His voice trailed off. The color drained from his already pale face. "Voss?" Kyle asked. "What's wrong?" Voss didn't answer. He just stared at his device, then at the humans, then back at his device. His hands were shaking. "Voss, talk to me," Kyle demanded. The scholar finally looked up. "Class 12, he whispered. They're from a class 12. The other two Velrin went completely still. Nirem made a sound like a gasp. What's a class 12? Hana asked. Voss turned his device around so the humans could see. The screen showed a planet, beautiful and blue, with white clouds and green continents. Earth. Below the image were lines of text in the Velrin language, but the translator was already working on them. Day read the words as they appeared. Planet classification, 12. Status, Deathworld. Gravity, 1.2 times standard. Atmosphere, toxic oxygen levels at 21%. Weather systems, catastrophic. Tectonic activity, extreme. Predator density, lethal. Recommended action, avoid. Do not attempt contact. That's your home? Kyle asked quietly. That's Earth, Yuna said with a shrug. It's not so bad once you get used to it. Not so bad. Nirem's voice was high and strained. The gravity alone would crush most species. The oxygen would poison us. How can you? Tay smiled. We evolved there. It's normal for us. Voss was still reading from his device. Your world has storms that can flatten cities, earthquakes that split the ground, oceans that rise and swallow the land. You have predators that hunted your ancestors. You survived anyway. You thrived. Well, yeah, Hana said. What else were we going to do? Give up? The Velrin didn't seem to know how to respond to that. Over the next few days, as the Velrin recovered, the cultural exchange continued. Kyle explained that they had been on a diplomatic mission when raiders attacked them. They fled into the Broken Ring because they thought it was too dangerous for anyone to follow. They had been wrong. The raiders damaged their ship and left them to die. We've been drifting for 18 days, Kyle said. Our supplies ran out a week ago. We thought we were dead. He looked at Day. Then you came. Into a place no one should survive. And you saved us. That's what we do, Day said simply. Voss had spent most of his recovery time studying everything he could about humans. He interviewed each crew member, asking questions that seemed strange. How much could they lift? How long could they run? How fast did they heal? When Tay casually mentioned that he had broken his arm as a child and it healed in 6 weeks, Voss looked horrified. 6 weeks? Our bones take 6 months to heal, and that's with medical assistance. Really? Tay seemed surprised. That seems like a long time. Voss showed them a video from SciFiPrime. The humans watched as Velrin children played in what looked like a park. They moved carefully, slowly, as if afraid of getting hurt. Is that normal speed? Yuna asked. Yes, Nirem said. Why? It's just slow, Kale laughed. A sound like wind chimes. To you, perhaps. To us, you move like predators, fast and strong. It's frightening, if I'm honest. Hana showed them human sports. She pulled up videos of football, basketball, rock climbing. The Velrin watched in silence as humans crashed into each other, fell from heights, and pushed their bodies to extreme limits. This is entertainment? Voss asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sure, Hana said. It's fun. Fun, Voss repeated. You do this for fun. On my world, any one of these activities would be considered life-threatening. The Velrin were equally shocked by human diet. Tay offered them some of the ship's food, carefully selected items that seemed safe. When he bit into an apple, the crunching sound made all 3 Velrin flinch. Your teeth, Nirem said. They're so strong. Like a predator's. We're omnivores, Tay explained. We eat plants and meat. Meat, Kyle said. You kill other living creatures for food. Well, yeah, don't you? We're herbivores. We eat only plants. Most species in the galactic community are. The few carnivores we know they're not civilized. They're considered dangerous. Yuna frowned. But we're civilized. We have art and music and laws. We just also eat meat. Voss made a note on his device. You evolved from predators, or alongside them. Your world forced you to become strong, fast, and adaptable. It made you into what? Day asked. Into the most dangerous species I've ever encountered, Voss said honestly. But also the kindest. You could have left us to die. You should have, by any logical standard. The Broken Ring should have killed you. But you came anyway. Why? Day thought about it for a moment. Because someone needed help. That's reason enough. On the fifth day, Kyle called a meeting. He looked worried. I need to tell you something. Before we were attacked, before we fled, I activated our emergency beacon. It broadcasts our location and status to our fleet. That's good, Day said. They'll come rescue you. Yes, but... Kale hesitated. My people don't know about you, about humans. And the beacon has been broadcasting for over 3 weeks. They're coming. A full military escort, 12 warships. The human crew exchanged glances. When? Day asked. Soon. Maybe days, maybe hours. Kyle looked at each of them. I need to prepare them, to explain. Because if they arrive and see you, see what you are, where you're from, they might see you as a threat. A threat? Hana said. We saved you. I know, and I'll tell them that. But you have to understand, the galactic community has feared Deathworlders for generations. We've cataloged dozens of Deathworlds, but we've never encountered a species that came from one. The assumption has always been that if such a species existed, they would be violent, aggressive, impossible to reason with. But we're not, Yuna protested. I know that, Kyle said. But convincing an admiral commanding 12 warships? That might be harder. He looked at Day. I'll do everything I can. You saved my life and my crew. I owe you everything. But you need to be ready. When my people arrive, they're going to be scared. And scared people make bad decisions. Day stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, space was calm and empty. But somewhere out there, a fleet was coming. A fleet that thought humans were monsters. We need to contact Earth, he said finally. This is bigger than us now. This is first contact, and we need to do it right. Hana nodded. I'll send a priority message, but Earth is 3 days away at light speed. Even with quantum relays, we're looking at hours before we get a response. Do it anyway, Day ordered. And everyone, start preparing. We're about to meet the galaxy. Let's make sure we make a good first impression. Voss spoke up quietly. For what it's worth, I'll speak for you too. My report will say that you're not what we feared. You're something better. Something we never expected. He smiled, a strange expression on his alien face. Your hope. The response from Earth Command came faster than expected. Colonel Jin's face appeared on the screen, her expression serious but calm. She listened without interrupting as Day explained the situation. First contact, she said when he finished. We knew this day would come. We just didn't know when. She glanced at something off-screen. Captain Day, you did the right thing saving those people. Now we need to make sure this doesn't turn into a disaster. What are your orders, Colonel? Hold position. We're sending the New Dawn with Ambassador Lee. She's our best diplomat. 2 escort ships will accompany her, the Endeavor and the Vigilant, Captains Han and Ryu. Good people, experienced. Jin leaned forward. But Day, they won't arrive for 36 hours. You need to hold things together until then. And if the Velran fleet arrives first, then you be honest, be respectful, and don't do anything that could be seen as threatening. Let the Velran ambassador, Kale, do most of the talking. Make it clear we're not a threat. After the call ended, Day gathered his crew. We've got a day and a half, maybe less. Let's use it well. The next 30 hours were intense. Kale worked with Voss to prepare a detailed report about humans, their world, and their actions. Nirem helped Yuna understand Velran ship protocols and communication standards. They wanted to avoid any misunderstandings. Hana spent her time learning about Velran technology. What she found fascinated her. Their ships were elegant, efficient, and built with materials that were incredibly light. But they were also fragile compared to human designs. Look at this, she showed Day a schematic. Their hull plating is only 3 centimeters thick. Ours is 20. They don't have redundant systems for critical components. If one thing breaks, the whole system fails. Why? Day asked. Because their worlds don't require it. SciFiPrime has no extreme weather, no tectonic activity, no major predators. They never needed to overbuild things. They never learned to plan for disasters. Hana shook her head. It's amazing they survive in space at all. Tay made similar discoveries in his medical research. Velryn physiology was delicate. Their bones were light but brittle. Their muscles were efficient but weak. A fall that would bruise a human could kill a Velryn. They're not weak, Tay explained. They're adapted to their environment. It's just that their environment is so much gentler than ours. During a meal, Yuna asked Kale about the galactic community. What were they like? What did they do? Kale seemed happy to explain. We're explorers mostly, scientists and diplomats. We map new systems, study phenomena, make contact with new species. We trade knowledge and resources. We have conflicts, but they're usually solved through negotiation. Usually, Day caught the word. There are exceptions. Pirates, raiders, criminals. The Kresh are the worst. They come from a harsher world than most, though nothing like Earth. They prey on peaceful species because we can't really fight back. You don't have a military? Hana asked. We have defense forces, but they're small. Most species in the community are like us, Velryn. We're not built for combat. Our ships are designed to run away, not fight. It's worked for thousands of years. Kale paused. Until recently. The Kresh are getting bolder, attacking more often. We don't know how to stop them. Voss added quietly, It's one reason Admiral Shen might be nervous about meeting you. You're from a death world. You're strong, fast, and resilient. To someone like Shen, you might look like the Kresh, only worse. But we're not, Yuna protested. I know, but Shen doesn't. Not yet. The New Dawn arrived first, dropping out of faster-than-light travel with 2 escort ships flanking it. Ambassador Lee contacted the Horizon's Edge immediately. Captain Day, good work keeping everyone calm. I'm coming aboard. Lee was a small woman, barely reaching Day's shoulder, but she carried herself with absolute confidence. She greeted each crew member, then spent an hour talking with Kale and his team. When she emerged from the meeting, she looked thoughtful. They're terrified, she said bluntly. Not of us specifically, but of what we represent. They've spent thousands of years believing Deathworld species couldn't be civilized. We're proof they were wrong, and that's scary for them. So what do? Day asked. We show them who we really are. Not monsters, not conquerors, just people, she smiled. People who are very good at surviving. Captain Han of the Endeavor had a different suggestion during a joint meeting. We should demonstrate our capabilities. Not aggressively, just enough to earn respect. Show them we can navigate that asteroid field. Show them our ships can take damage theirs can't. Make it clear that while we're friendly, we're not helpless. I disagree, Captain Ryu of the Vigilant said. Any show of force might be seen as a threat. We should focus on diplomacy. Lee considered both arguments. We'll do both. Ryu, you'll stay with the diplomatic vessels. Han, you'll run patrol drills. Normal operations, nothing aggressive. But if the Velryn want to watch, let them. The Velryn fleet arrived 20 hours later. 12 ships dropped out of FTL in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the distant sun. They were beautiful, elegant, built like works of art. Compared to them, the human ships looked brutal and industrial. Receiving a transmission, Yuna reported. It's the flagship, Eternal Dawn. Admiral Shen wants to speak with whoever is in command. Lee nodded. Put him through. The Velryn Admiral appeared on screen. He was older than Kale, with silver markings on his blue skin. His eyes were hard, assessing. I am Admiral Shen of the Velryn Concordat. We are here for Ambassador Kale and his crew. Surrender them immediately. Lee's expression didn't change. I am Ambassador Lee of Earth. Ambassador Kale and his crew are safe aboard the Horizon's Edge. They're recovering from their injuries. We rescued them from the asteroid field after their ship was damaged. Asteroid field? Shen's expression flickered with surprise. The broken ring? Yes. That's impossible. No one can navigate the broken ring. We did, Lee said simply. Your people needed help. We provided it. Shen was quiet for a moment. What do you want? Want? Nothing. We saved them because it was the right thing to do. No one does something for nothing. What is your species? Where do you come from? Why haven't we encountered you before? Lee took a breath. We're humans, Admiral. We come from a planet called Earth. As for why you haven't encountered us, I believe your database lists our world as a Class 12 death world. Quarantined, uninhabitable. The change in Shen's expression was dramatic. Shock, fear, and disbelief all crossed his face. Death world. You're from a death world. We are. That's not possible. Species from death worlds can't achieve spaceflight, can't achieve civilization. You should be primitive, violent, dead? Lee's voice was gentle. We're none of those things, Admiral. We're just people who had to work a little harder to survive. And now we'd like to talk, to establish peaceful relations, to perhaps become friends. Shen stared at her for a long moment. I need to speak with Ambassador Kale. Immediately. I need to hear his account of what happened. Of course, I'll arrange it. After the transmission ended, Day let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. That could have gone worse. It's not over, Lee warned. He's scared, and he's got 12 warships. Until we can convince him we're not a threat, we're in danger. Kale entered the bridge. He had heard the conversation. Let me talk to him. Shen is cautious, but he's not unreasonable. If I can make him understand, do it, Lee said. But Kale, be honest. Tell him everything, the good and the bad. We don't want there to be any surprises. Kale nodded. I will. And thank you for everything. Whatever happens next, you've already done more for us than you had any reason to. You risked your lives for strangers. That means something. As Kale left to make his call, Lee turned to look out at the Velrin fleet. 12 ships against 3. If this went wrong, if Shen decided humanity was too dangerous to exist, Earth's location would be known to a potentially hostile power. Everything depended on the next few hours, on whether fear or reason would win, on whether the galaxy was ready to meet the Deathworlders. Kale's conversation with Admiral Shen lasted 3 hours. The human crew waited anxiously, monitoring the Velrin fleet's positions. The 12 warships maintained their formation, weapons powered but not aimed. A defensive stance but not an aggressive one. Finally, Kale emerged from the communication room. He looked exhausted but relieved. He wants to meet, face to face, aboard the Eternal Dawn. That's good, right? Yuna asked. It's better than being shot at, Kale said. But he's still very worried. I told him everything, about the rescue, about your world, about how you've treated us. He believes me, I think. But he needs to see for himself. Ambassador Lee nodded. Then we'll meet him. Captain Day, you'll come with me. Kale, you too. We'll show him there's nothing to fear. The shuttle ride to the Eternal Dawn was quiet. Day noticed how the Velrin flagship was designed. Smooth lines, minimal armor, large windows. It was beautiful but looked fragile. One good hit would probably tear through it. Admiral Shen met them in a conference room. He was taller than Kale, with more silver markings that suggested age and rank. His eyes studied the humans carefully, like a scientist examining a new species. Ambassador Lee, Captain Day. Please, sit. He gestured to chairs that were clearly designed for Velrin. Too small, too light. Day sat carefully, hearing the chair creak under his weight. Shen noticed and made a note on a device. I've read Ambassador Kale's report, Shen began, and Scholar Voss's analysis. I've also accessed our database on Earth. What I've learned is troubling. Troubling how? Lee asked. Your world should have killed you. The gravity, the atmosphere, the weather, the predators. Any one of those factors would make a planet uninhabitable. Your world has all of them. Yet you not only survived, you thrived. You built civilizations. You reached space. Shen leaned forward. How? We adapted, Lee said. We learned to work together. We innovated. We never gave up. Your bones are 3 times denser than ours. Your muscles are twice as efficient. You heal from injuries that would kill most species. You can survive temperature ranges that would be lethal to my people. Shen's voice was calm but firm. You are, by any definition, a warrior species, built for combat. And now you're here, in our space. We didn't come to your space. Day pointed out. You came to ours. We were on patrol near our colonies when we found your people. Colonies. So you're expanding. Slowly, yes. We're not invading anyone. We're just settling empty systems. Shen was quiet for a moment. I've spent my entire career protecting my people. The galactic community is made up of peaceful species, scientists, explorers, traders. We've built a civilization based on cooperation and mutual benefit. We've avoided war for centuries. He looked at Lee directly. Then I learned that a Deathworld species, a species we believed could never exist, has achieved spaceflight, has military vessels, has colonies. Can you understand why this frightens me? I can, Lee said. But Admiral, we're not your enemy. We saved your people. We risked our lives for strangers. Does that sound like a warrior species bent on conquest? It sounds like a species capable of great compassion, Shen admitted. But also great danger. Compassion and capability are not mutually exclusive. Before Lee could respond, an alert sounded. A Velran officer entered quickly. Admiral, one of the human escort vessels is approaching the broken ring. Shen's expression darkened. What? On the main screen, they could see the Vigilant moving toward the asteroid field. Captain Ryu's voice came over the communication channel. Vigilant to Eternal Dawn. We're conducting routine patrol maneuvers, standard operations. Observe if you wish. Is this a demonstration? Shen asked, his voice sharp. It's what we do, Day said. We patrol, we practice, we stay ready. Captain Ryu is one of our best pilots. If you want to understand what humans can do, watch. The Velran crew gathered around displays, watching as the Vigilant approached the broken ring. The asteroid field looked even more dangerous from this angle, a wall of tumbling stone. The Vigilant didn't slow down. It entered the field at a speed that made several Velran gasp. Rocks the size of houses hurtled past. The human ship weaved between them, turning, rolling, accelerating through gaps that seemed too small. They'll be destroyed, a Velran officer whispered. But the Vigilant wasn't destroyed. An asteroid struck the ship's side, a glancing blow that would have crippled a Velran vessel. The human ship shuddered but kept going. Another impact, this one harder. Still, the Vigilant pressed on. Shields at 70%, Ryu's calm voice reported. Minor hull damage to Section 3. All systems nominal. Continuing patrol. The ship emerged from the other side of the field 2 minutes later, barely scratched. The Velran crew was silent, stunned. That field destroyed our diplomatic vessel, Kale said quietly. We limped in and barely survived. They flew through it like it was nothing. Not nothing, Day corrected. Captain Ryu is sweating right now, I guarantee it. That's difficult even for us. But we train for it. We prepare for worst-case scenarios because, on Earth, worst case happens regularly. Shen stared at the screen. Your ships are built differently than ours? They have to be. We have redundant systems for every critical component. Thick armor, strong shields. We overbuild everything because we learned the hard way that if something can break, it will break at the worst possible time. A Velran engineer spoke up. Admiral, I've been analyzing their ship designs. Their construction methods are incredible. Wasteful by our standards, but incredibly resilient. A human ship can take damage that would destroy 3 of our vessels and keep functioning. Shen turned back to Lee. So you're showing me that you're strong, that you're dangerous. How does this help your case? We're showing you that we can be strong and still choose peace, Lee said. Yes, we can survive things you can't. Yes, our ships are tougher. But we use that strength to save your people, not harm them. We could have ignored the distress call. We could have left Kale and his crew to die. But we didn't. Voss spoke up from where he'd been quietly observing. Admiral, I've spent days with these humans. I've studied them, interviewed them, observed them. And I've come to a conclusion. They're not like the Kresh. The Kresh are from a harsh world, and it made them cruel. Humans are from a world far harsher, but it made them compassionate. They learned that survival depends on cooperation, that strength means protecting others, not preying on them. And if you're wrong, Shen asked, if they decide tomorrow that they want our resources, our worlds, Who could stop them? They could stop themselves, Kale said firmly. They have laws, morals, ethics. They police themselves. Admiral, I owe these people my life. All three of us do. I trust them. Shen stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the human ships. They were smaller than his vessels, fewer in number, but somehow they seemed more solid, more real. The galactic community has a problem, he said finally. The Kresh are getting bolder. Our defense forces can't stop them. We're losing ships, colonies, lives. We're explorers and scientists forced to play at war, and we're not very good at it. He turned to face Li. If I bring you before the council, if I propose an alliance, they'll be terrified. They'll see what I see, a species from a death world, strong enough to do whatever they want. But they'll also be desperate. We need help. We're not mercenaries, Li said carefully. I'm not asking for mercenaries. I'm asking for allies, friends, partners. Shen took a breath. Help us, and we'll help you. We have technology you don't, knowledge of the galaxy, access to resources. You have strength we lack, resilience we need. Together we could protect the peaceful species of the galaxy. We could build something new. Li glanced at Day, then back to Shen. I'll need to discuss this with Earth. This is bigger than me, bigger than any of us. But I can tell you that Earth has always valued cooperation. We've always believed that we're stronger together. Then let's start there, Shen said. Let's see if Deathworlders and diplomats can find common ground. Let's see if fear and hope can coexist. He extended his hand, a gesture he had clearly learned from the database. Li took it carefully, aware that her grip could hurt him if she wasn't cautious. To new beginnings, Shen said. To new friends, Li replied. Outside the window, human and Velran ships held position, no longer enemies, not quite yet allies, but something in between. Something that might grow into something stronger. The next 2 weeks were a blur of meetings, discussions, and careful negotiations. Ambassador Li shuttled between the human and Velran vessels, building relationships and trust. Admiral Shen proved to be honest and straightforward, qualities Li appreciated. Earth Command sent more diplomats and military advisors. The Velran sent cultural liaisons and scientists. Slowly, carefully, two species began to understand each other. Captain Han organized joint training exercises. Velran crews watched as human ships ran drills that would be impossible for them. In return, Velran engineers showed humans technology that seemed like magic, faster than light drives that were twice as efficient as Earth's, medical scanners that could diagnose diseases before symptoms appeared, energy shields that used a fraction of the power human versions needed. We've been solving different problems, Hana explained to Niram as they worked together on a joint project. You've been perfecting your technology in safe environments. We've been making ours survive in dangerous ones. Combine the two, and we get something better than either alone. The Velran were endlessly fascinated by human culture. Voss spent hours watching human movies, reading human books, listening to human music. He was particularly interested in human stories about overcoming impossible odds. You tell stories about survival constantly, he observed today, about facing danger and winning, about never giving up. These aren't just entertainment, they're teaching tools. You're preparing your children for a dangerous world from birth. I never thought about it that way, Day admitted. But yeah, I guess you're right. We grow up learning that life is hard, but we can handle it. It's in everything you do, Voss said. Your idioms, your humor, your values. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. These phrases reveal your worldview. You expect adversity and you've learned to embrace it. One evening, Kale organized a dinner between the crews. The Velran couldn't eat most human food and vice versa, but they sat together anyway, sharing stories and laughter. Yuna told a story about learning to fly in Earth's atmosphere, dealing with storms and wind shear. The Velran listened in horror as she described flying through a hurricane as part of her training. You flew into a hurricane? Niram asked, incredulous. Well, yeah. How else do you learn to handle extreme conditions? By avoiding them. Everyone laughed, and the tension that had existed between the species dissolved a little more. 3 weeks after first contact, Ambassador Li received a message from Earth. The government had reviewed all the information, consulted with experts, and made a decision. They wanted to accept Admiral Shen's proposal for an alliance, but with conditions. Li presented these conditions at a formal meeting aboard the New Dawn. Present were Admiral Shen, Ambassador Kale, and representatives from both species. Earth agrees to a mutual defense pact, Li began. We'll help protect galactic community members from threats like the Kresh. In exchange, we want access to galactic technology, trade agreements, and a formal introduction to the wider community. Acceptable, Shen said. What else? We want to maintain our independence. We'll be allies, not subjects. We make our own decisions about our worlds and our people. Also acceptable. The community doesn't seek to control member species, only to cooperate with them. And finally, we want to start small. A joint station, a place where humans and Velrin can work together, learn from each other, prove that this can work before we expand it. Shen considered this. A pilot program. Wise. I agree. He smiled. An expression that was becoming more natural. I believe the Council will approve. They're desperate enough to overcome their fear. And if they're not, Day asked, then I'll convince them. I've seen what humans can do. More importantly, I've seen who humans are. The galaxy needs you, whether they know it yet or not. The joint station was built over the next 6 months. Located in neutral space between Earth's colonies and Velrin territory, it was designed by both species working together. Velrin elegance met human durability, creating something unique. Hana led the engineering team. She taught Velrin engineers about redundancy and safety margins. They taught her about efficiency and elegant design. The resulting station was beautiful, functional, and nearly indestructible. This is amazing, Hana said as they toured the completed station. We couldn't have built this alone. Neither of us could have. The first crisis came 3 months after the station was operational. A Velrin colony reported a Kresh raiding party approaching. Admiral Shen called for help. Captain Day took the Horizon's Edge, along with 3 other human ships and a Velrin squadron. They arrived at the colony just as the Kresh were beginning their attack. The Kresh had never encountered humans before. Their first indication something was wrong was when human ships ignored damage that should have crippled them. Their second indication was when human marines boarded their vessels. The Kresh were tough by galactic standards, larger and stronger than Velrin, but they weren't ready for humans. The fight was brief and one-sided. The raiders fled, spreading word to avoid ships with Earth's blue and white emblem. The colony celebrated their rescue. Velrin civilians met humans for the first time, and their fear transformed into gratitude. Children gave human marines flowers, a universal gesture of thanks. You saved us, one Velrin told Day. We thought we were dead. Then you came, like heroes from a story. Just doing our job, Day said, uncomfortable with the praise. But Kale, who had come along as a liaison, shook his head. No, this is more than a job. You could have ignored us, like you could have ignored me in that asteroid field. But you didn't. You protect others because that's who you are. News of the rescue spread through the galactic community. Reactions were mixed. Some species were grateful, seeing humans as saviors. Others were even more afraid, seeing humans as warriors who had proven they could fight. But slowly, steadily, attitudes began to change. More species requested meetings with Earth. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges began, and through it all, the joint station served as a symbol of what was possible when different species worked together. A year after first contact, Ambassador Li stood on the observation deck of the joint station. Earth hung in the distance, a blue jewel in the darkness. Beside her, Voss was preparing a presentation for the Galactic Council. Are you nervous? She asked him. Terrified, he admitted. I'm about to tell the Council that everything they believed about Deathworld species was wrong. That humans are the future of the community, not a threat to it. And if they don't listen, Voss smiled, then I'll keep trying. Because I've learned something from you humans. When something is important, you don't give up. You keep pushing forward, no matter how hard it gets. Li put a hand on his shoulder, carefully gentle. We'll face it together. That's what allies do. Below them, on the station's main floor, humans and Velrun worked side by side. Scientists sharing research, engineers solving problems, families from both species learning about each other. A message came through from Earth Command. More ships were being sent, more personnel trained. Earth was committing fully to this new alliance. And from the Velrun capital, Admiral Shen sent word that the Council had officially voted to invite humanity into the galactic community. The vote hadn't been unanimous, but it had passed. Cal came to find them, grinning. "It's official. You're part of the community now. Welcome to the galaxy, humans." Lee laughed. "Thank you. We're happy to be here. Though I suspect we're going to make things interesting." "Interesting is good," Kyle said. "The galaxy has been peaceful for so long we'd gotten complacent. You remind us that peace has to be protected, that it's worth fighting for." Outside the viewport, ships from a dozen species began arriving. They came to see the station, to meet the humans, to witness history. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. But it wasn't the arrival of conquerors or monsters. It was the arrival of survivors who had learned that the greatest strength was using your power to protect others, of people who had faced impossible odds and learned to never give up. The galaxy had spent centuries fearing Deathworlders. Now they were learning something new, that sometimes the things you fear most are exactly what you need. Humanity had reached for the stars and found friends waiting, and together, they would build something neither could have achieved alone. A future where strength and compassion worked hand in hand, where different species supported each other, where no one faced danger alone. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they were here to help.